Capitol Hoops, continuing our series Beyond the X's and O's. Today we are at the brand new Fairmont Heights High School with defending 1A state champion head coach Chuck Henry. Coach, we look forward to getting to know you a little better. Thanks for having us over here.
I appreciate you taking the time to interview me. Anything we can do to highlight Fairmont Heights, man, I'm all for it.
All right. Well, we'll get to Fairmont Heights in a few minutes, but first I want to get just a little bit of background on yourself. I know you're a DMV product, and you've had a interesting path getting here to Fairmont Heights. But tell us a little bit about your background.
Like you said, I'm born and bred in PG County. I'm very proud of that. I'm a Forestville graduate, 2001. So I'm kind of a young guy. Graduated in the same millennium as a lot of my kids, so it's kind of weird at times. But I'm humbled by the fact that I get to coach at Fairmont Heights because I actually got this job because of Coach Wake, and it's funny because I actually went to college because of Coach Wake. So me coming home to Fairmont Heights is kind of putting things full circle because had it not been for Coach Wake and a guy named Kevin Jolly, who was a Fairmont Heights legend, man, I probably wouldn't be the guy sitting before you today. Those two guys helped me get into college and to turn around and actually lead, their school to a state championship. Man, I'm overwhelmed with joy, and I'm really humbled by this whole experience.
Tell me about you as a player at Forestville. What kind of player were you? Tell me about your career at Forestville.
Oh man, I started actually playing at Forestville. I was a football player. And we had just went to state championships and everything, and we did like one of those teachers versus student games, and I just played in that game, and the coach saw me playing, and he was like, "Hey, who are you? Come play some basketball for us."
What year was this?
This was my junior year.
So you didn't play basketball your first year?
I hadn't. I tried out at Crossland. I was actually at Crossland my sophomore year. Okay. Didn't make the team. Coach Levi Franklin cut me. Oh man, and so I ended up transferring to Forestville, which was my home school anyway, and had a good career over there. The team kind of stunk, but I made some great friends, and I was just a super athletic kid, and I got blessed with the opportunity to go to college, playing in a PG County All-Star game.
Oh wow! So let's fast forward to college. Where did you go to college, and how was your basketball career in college?
I went to Barton College, which is in Wilson, North Carolina. I always say that. People ask me what school, and they're like, Barton? So I tell them all the time, it's in Wilson, North Carolina.
Where's Wilson at?
Wilson is about 45 minutes east of Raleigh. Okay. So it's right down 495.
Right down Tobacco Road?
Right down there, down 95, exit 121. It's only one exit, so if you miss it, if you blink, you're going to miss it, man. But I had a great experience while I was there. Went to NCAA tournament, I want to say twice while I was there. We won a conference championship. We were second in the conference, which was the best at the time in the school's history. But since, they ended up winning the national championship in 2007. So, come from a pretty good basketball background down there. Great school. My head coach is still there. I still talk to him to this day. That's my guy, Coach Ron Levenson, man. Great guy.
So you finish at Barton, and take me through what happens in your life after you graduate.
So I graduated on Sunday, which is Mother's Day. Monday, I started working in the federal government.
Wow.
I had already had that job. I had been an intern for a few years. I started working at the EPA the very next day. And probably about a few months in, I realized, man, I can't sit at a desk the rest of my life. So I started pursuing opportunities to try to get overseas, winning some tryouts, things like that. And the thing that kind of just made
it— to play basketball overseas.
Just to play basketball overseas. I got an agent, things like that. And one day I get this call at 6 in the morning. Agent calls me, he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, the same thing most people on the East Coast are doing, I'm asleep. He was like, can you be packed by noon? I said, yeah, and he didn't call me back at noon. I ended up getting a call later that evening. He said, "Hey, check your email. You got a contract in there. Sign the contract, get it back to me." And I did that, and less than 24 hours later, I was on a plane to Germany.
And how long were you in Germany? I mean, take me through that. What was that like playing over there in a country I assume you've never been to before?
Oh man, it was awesome.
Yeah?
I was one of the lucky guys. I got to a spot where they loved me. I went to a spot where basketball was good. My team was pretty good. We ended up winning the league. But it was a great situation. I loved my time in Germany. I wish I was still there.
And was it like a situation where there's only two Americans on the team?
Nah, I was the only one.
Oh,
I was the only one. So I played in the league when all the teams were allowed to have two, but I was the only one on my team. And we ended up winning the league anyway. Guys would, double team me, triple team me.
Yeah.
It was funny because I would post my averages or my statistics of my games. And I think a lot of times people didn't believe me, but I have 50 points, 28 rebounds, 12 assists, 15 steals, some ridiculous stat lines. And people didn't believe me, but we ended up winning the league that year. So it's pretty cool. I got some endorsement deals and everything. Wow. So it was a really, really great time.
I know a lot of guys who play overseas, they feel like there's not much stability, because just the rosters are changing all the time. How long did you play on that one team? Just the 1 year?
I played on that team for 2.5 years.
2.5 years?
Yeah.
So did you feel like you were in a stable spot in your life, or did you feel like every day like a new kind of hurdle could come across?
Nah, my team actually showed me a lot of love, because in my second year I broke my foot, and the only reason they kept me is because I showed toughness. I played on it. I broke my foot the very first game my second year. So it was crazy, because they were supposed to let me go. Easy. But I got the X-rays. They said it was broken. So my team's now they're scrambling and trying to find a new player. So maybe to find a second American, or maybe possibly get rid of me and replace me. But I kept playing on it. I came to practice the next day. My coach was like, "What are you doing here?" I was, I'm here to play. And so we played that weekend, and that weekend I ended up with 40 points and 35, 36 rebounds, something like that. It was ridiculous, and I didn't miss a shot the entire game. And after the game was over, I told my coach, I was like, "Man, I'm committed to this, and I'm gonna do everything I need to do to stay. And I hope what I put on the floor today shows how tough I am and how much I'm willing to sacrifice for this team." And sure enough, they kept me an entire season. We won the league again. And in Europe, when you win your league, you move up a league.
Right.
So we started out, we were in this really bottom basement league in Germany. We were 5th or 6th league. And so by the time I left, we were in 3rd league, because we won it a couple times. So I had a great time there. In fact, they just celebrated their 10th anniversary of the club. And they had me do a video. It was weird, because they wanted me to just kind of say, I miss Rendsburg, and they gave me, really, I was kind of like the highlight of the video. And they finished the video with me saying I love them and I miss them, and I still talk to quite a few people from my town.
Was English the main language there?
No.
Did you learn German?
I did.
Really?
So it started out with, teammates teaching me bad words. And then they would teach you some basketball words.
Right.
And then when we would go to restaurants, I would, I'm a history buff. I'm a culture buff. I'm one of those guys who just loves all of that.
Right.
And so I just started to pick up on some things. And they would have conversations, and they would say, they would kind of discuss things, and I would say, I would understand what they were saying, and they were like, "Wait a minute, you understood what we were saying right there?" And I caught it. I caught everything you were saying. So it got to a point where they would speak all German to me, and we would, I could speak it pretty fluently.
Wow, impressive. So you're there for 2.5 years, and then what comes next?
Then I just started bouncing around, trying to find a home. I went to Belgium. I had a buddy from college who played in Belgium, so I spent some time with him, trying to get on there. I had a friend who played in France, spent some time there trying to get on in France, and a lot of things just didn't work in my favor. I didn't have the type of dynamic I had when I was in Germany. Teams that I was going to, were looking for a different type of player. A couple places they had me playing point guard. I really wasn't a point guard. I was a wing guard. I'm a defender. They want me to be a passer. Things just didn't work out. So you really have to just get into a situation that works for you. And I just couldn't find one after I left Germany.
So you played professionally for 2.5 years, and then after kind of bouncing around a little bit?
Yeah, after that kind of bouncing around, came back to the States, in and out of the States. So like I would go to, Mexico for, a month and a half, 2 months. So I would be
trying to chase a new contract.
Yeah. I would be there and be with some teams. Like at one point, I was in Argentina. I got all the way to Argentina and didn't play a lick. I would practice with the team every day, practice. Got down there and didn't play 1 minute.
Wow.
So I never logged any minutes. I never got any film. Never got any footage.
Was that dejecting? How do you what's going on in your mind when you leave there, knowing that you went down there and didn't play?
Well, I'm a career overachiever. It didn't bother me at all. I just kept playing. I just really kept just fighting. Kind of just what I've always done. Eventually, I just hoped eventually it will work out, and unfortunately it didn't. I didn't make my way back, but it was good.
So you make your way back to the States. Tell me about after you came back here, kind of what you did in terms of your basketball career.
So I get back, and once I got back, I decided, okay, I'm gonna get into coaching. So I started emailing my resume out to a bunch of coaches, and at that point, I don't have any coaching background aside from coaching youth teams when I was in Germany. That was what I did to kind of spend the rest of my time, because while you're overseas, you practice twice a day, but then you do that 5-6 days a week, and then the rest of your time you're just kind of open. So I asked my coaches, hey, can I coach one of the youth teams or at least help out? And so that's how I spent a lot of my time. So when I got back, I sent my resume out to some coaches, and no biters. I sent my resume. Then I started asking people, can I volunteer? I'm here back in the DMV, so I asked Bowie State, can I volunteer? American, Catholic, all the different schools, can I come volunteer? And no takers. So finally I emailed Belmont Abbey, which is in Charlotte, North Carolina. They're a rival of my college. And I asked, hey, can I come down there and volunteer for a year? Coach is like, absolutely. So I let my head coach from my college know, hey, I'm gonna go down to Belmont Abbey and I'm gonna volunteer down here for a year. And immediately he goes off with me, no way, you don't volunteer at a school in our conference. If you volunteer anywhere, you come volunteer here at Barton College. He was like, if you can get down here, sometime soon and we can talk about it, we'll work it out. So I go down there the next day. The next day I go down, I see, a bunch of administrators and coaches that I've known, from my time there when I was a player. And Coach Liebenstein says right away, hey, you come here, and you won't volunteer. I'll figure out some kind of way to pay you. So he doesn't know I know this, but I know my coach went into his pocket and paid me a lot of times. I did have a stipend that, set up housing and things like that, and I worked part-time while I was there. But Coach Liebenstein went into his pocket and actually gave me money out of his family's, finances to help me while I was there, and I'm forever in his debt for that. I wouldn't be the coach I am without, Coach Liebenstein really looking out for me.
So how long were you there for?
I just spent 1 year there.
Okay.
We had a great team. We had a kid who was an All-American. But it was, I had been away from D.C. for so long. I was like, man, I really got to get back. Went to the Final Four that year, which was in Atlanta.
I was there. I was at that Final Four.
Okay, yeah. So I was down there hanging out with Lawrence Moten.
I went to see Syracuse there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I ran into, I had an interview set up with Catholic University. A good friend of mine, Steve Howes, well, at the time he wasn't a friend, but he was gracious enough to read my emails and reply to my emails about, hey, you know, I'm from the area. I really would like to come back and get an opportunity to interview with you about possibly volunteering at Catholic. So I did that interview with him. He gave me the job, and then I went over there with those guys for a year. I mean, had a great time at Catholic. That's probably the best coaching job that I had outside of, you know, Fairmont Heights, Chavez, Catholic University, the 3 best coaching jobs I had. I mean, Barton was great as well, but it was just, you know, it was different. I couldn't really do a whole lot while I was at Barton because I had, you know, a part-time job and things like that. But at Catholic, I loved it because Coach Howes really respected my opinion and gave me an opportunity to recruit and evaluate. And that's when I really kind of put my stamp on evaluating. A lot of those guys he still has over there, you know, with a few guys that are seniors or just recently graduated. So.
Right. So you're at Catholic for 1 year?
Catholic for 1 year.
And then the year after that, you go to Chavez?
No, the year after that, I went to Longwood University.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I go to Longwood University, and I'm there from August till November. I was the director of operations, and for the first time
For the basketball team?
for the basketball team.
Okay.
And so most people don't know Longwood University is Division I school. So I'm like, yeah, I made it. You know, I'm finally a Division I coach. So now I'm just gonna work my way up the line. And for the first time in my life, I failed at something.
When you say you failed, like, elaborate on that. What does that mean?
Oh man, I couldn't keep up with the demands of being an assistant coach, a director of operations, a video guy, a secretary. Like, all those things kind of fell on my plate while I was there.
And it was just, what, like time management or just too much to handle?
It was just too much to handle. And I mean, they've probably been through, you know, 7 director of operations in probably 5 years. 7, 8 guys at least. That job is just, it's a lot. And, you know, no knock against Longwood University, great institution, really building their way into Division I basketball in the Big South, which is a league, I believe that's up and coming. But at the time, the job was just too much for a guy who was really inexperienced. And I'll be honest, I don't think I applied myself the way I applied myself here at Fairmont Heights. But it's a driving force of why I do work so hard here.
So you're there till November, and then what happens?
I come home, and Malcolm Battle and I had been developing a relationship, and so he immediately I get home and I say, man, I'm home, man, and immediately he says, well, come over here. You got a home with us, you know that. So I'm home 2 days, and I'm already in the Chavez polo. On the bench, sitting there watching the guys play against Paul VI. So I get thrown into the fire really, really quickly.
So this is Khalif Tate's sophomore year?
Sophomore year.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm over there with those guys, with that great team that they had.
Yeah.
Great team, had a great season. And Malcolm Battle, he really just took me under his wing. You know, like, I can't say enough about that dude. I owe him so much. I mean, whether it be financially, whether it be, you know, just mentally, the way he just kept me together, because I could have folded up and quit on a lot of things. But he was that voice in my ear saying, man, like, you know, basketball isn't really life and death, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Malcolm's a good guy. We met with him a few weeks ago. It was cool to catch up with him and his coaching staff. So you're at Chavez for 1 year.
I'm at Chavez for 1 year.
And then Fairmont Heights comes knocking. Tell me about the process of getting the job at Fairmont Heights.
Fairmont Heights did not come knocking. I was.
Well,
I would tell you that.
You and Fairmont Heights crossed paths in some capacity.
Yeah, it just was a perfect storm. I'll be honest. Battle pushed me out the door. I told him I wanted the job, and he immediately asked me, what can he do to help me? You know, what did I need? Even things as, you know, giving me practice jerseys, because, you know, Fairmont Heights, we didn't have practice jerseys, but, you know, he gave me all that stuff. But, you know, he helped me apply for the job. He helped me, work on my resume for the job. He helped me, find contacts. He knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who knew the athletic director here. And then Keith Stevens was great in terms of Keith told me, here's how you connect the dots. This is how you get the job. So Keith was great there as well. And, Keith's a humble guy, man. He's a hard guy to really try to nail down in one spot. But I ran into him one day and he was like, man, that's what you need to do. And when Keith Stevens tells you to do something, you do it because he's been there, he's done that. So I applied for the job, and when I come to the interview, like it's a college job. Right away, I have portfolios of my entire program that I brought with me, and I give this to the athletic director and the entire panel that's interviewing me, and they were floored. You don't do this at a public school. Mm-hmm. Especially a Prince George's County public school. You don't come with all of this. You don't come with practice plans. I mean, in the portfolio, you could see my first 10 practice plans, and we stuck to it pretty closely. My first 10 practice plans were pretty close to what I put in my interview packet. So it was good. I don't know how many other people they interviewed. I just know that right away when I left the interview, I knew I had it.
Pretty confident?
I was very confident.
And you only had one interview?
One interview at Fairmont Heights.
Wow.
The next time I came back in, I thought it was going to be an interview with the principal, and the athletic director is here. Here's our principal, Mrs. Walker. And Ms. Walker's first response was, "Hey, welcome to the family. I've heard great things. We don't need to go any further. We feel like you're the man for the job."
So how does that, take me through your thought process when they tell you that you're the new man in town here?
Oh man, I immediately went to work.
Yeah.
I immediately went to work.
What month was this in? That you got
This was late July, early August of.
So you're about 3-4 months away from tryouts.
Yeah. So I don't know what we have.
So what kind of program did you inherit? How were you guys prior to the year you got here?
Oh man, program struggled.
Yeah.
For a few years. I don't know how long there was. It was a gap between when Coach Wake left and when I don't remember the guy's name that had the job before me. But they just didn't do a good job with the program. While Coach Wake was here, in his later years, they had some problems trying to keep talent because at that time guys wanted to go private school, and so Fairmont Heights was still at the top of the league when Coach Wake was here. But then once he left, it was like, all right, they didn't really take care of the program.
Give us a quick history lesson. Fairmont Heights was a dominant program back in the day, right? So
Yeah.
Tell everyone briefly just about the kind of the success they had back in the day.
So Fairmont Heights actually has 8 state championships.
Right.
So in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and early 80s, like Gwen Park, Fairmont Heights were perennial powerhouses.
Yeah.
I mean, guys that will win anywhere between, 15 to 20 games a year.
And this is back in the day when they probably played less games.
Yeah. So Fairmont Heights still holds the record for, points in the game in the state championship.
Right. I remember seeing that program.
Yep, 144 points.
That's crazy.
And I told the guys everything we could. We were going to try to break that record, but man, we couldn't get up and down the floor like that. But I was when I first got the job, I started reaching out to some of the guys who were really great here. The Brian Mackeys, and I don't want to keep throwing out a whole bunch of names because I don't want somebody to think I missed them. But the Chris McCrae's, the Kevin Jollies, the Nasir Austins, and even going all the way back to a guy named Julius Johnson. He was nicknamed Peter Rabbit, who was actually a pastor out in Anne Arundel County. So I'm on the internet. I'm looking for him, and I finally found out that he's a pastor at this church. And I called the church, and I tell him, "Hey, can you please have Pastor call me back? I really, really, really want to speak to him." And so I ended up getting a chance to speak to him, and so history lesson on Peter Rabbit. He was actually the second African American to play in the ACC. He went to the University of Maryland. He's a Fairmont Heights graduate.
Wow.
And so, we haven't had the opportunity to get him to a game, but having that conversation with him really enlightened me to the history of Fairmont Heights.
Right.
And I paid close attention to it. And so our last night in our old building, we did what we call Legacy Night. And we paid homage to all the greats that came through. Fairmont Heights has 16 All-Mets that have come through this school. Wow. And for a public school, that's pretty awesome.
Sure, for sure. So back to present day, Fairmont Heights. You inherit the job from a program that was struggling at the time. Take me through your first year.
First year was up and down. I remember sitting at a JV game, probably second or third game into the season, and there was a call right before the buzzer. The the person that was operating the clock didn't stop the clock on time. And so, literally, we're talking about 10 to 15 seconds. If I can see if it was like 2 or 3 seconds, that right there, referee will probably just call it half. But I remember the clock going off for like 15 seconds, and we're yelling at the referee, the clock is still going. And the ref says to us, hey, he was like, no, he says to the other referee, he grabs the ball, he was like, that's the half. And so the other referee was like, nah, we need to put some time on the clock and finish playing it. And he says, man, that's Fairmont Heights, they're gonna lose anyway. So I'm at half court, this is the referee that said this, and so immediately I get up and I storm out and I follow the guy, and I go in the hallway, and immediately the guy thinks I want to fight him or something, and I'm like, nah, dude, I just want to talk to you. And so the whole thing is on camera in the school, and you can see that I'm really just trying to talk to the guy and everything. But I ended up getting a 1-week suspension for that, and rightfully so.
By whom? The MPSSA or Fairmont Heights?
By the county.
By PG County.
But it rightfully so. I had, inappropriate contact with an official, so I'll own that, And at the time, I didn't know the rules about, you can't confront a referee, especially at the game, especially while the game's going on. So I earned myself a 1-week suspension, but then I realized something.
And this is like a couple weeks into your job?
Yeah. This is like early December.
Are you nervous that you haven't really paid your dues yet?
Oh, man.
You don't want to be making that kind of impression that early on?
Absolutely. and I'll be honest, I got a few technical fouls after that, and it was one of those things. Young guy, I didn't have a mentor coming into this game in terms of PG County. I still was trying to figure it out, and one thing I realized that we got that positive that came from it was we got greater accountability. By and large, referees are pretty good in our league. I don't have a whole lot bad things to say about the referees in our league. They do a great job, I think. Their job is really tough.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys are lucky you get 3 officials.
We get 3.
I know Montgomery County still has 2.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing you got.
Absolutely.
Going for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so had a couple bad run-ins with officials because they had heard about that incident, but nobody really knew what the background was. They thought I was just attacking officials. Right. So once I was able to tell that story to the guys, they lightened up on me a little bit. They did a good job of really talking to me. The officials would talk to me because a lot of them remember me from when I was a player in the league, and they would say, "Hey, Chuck, come here for a second. Let me talk to you." So the official did a great job of really, really helping me out.
So walk me through the rest of your first year.
It was rough. It was up and down. We really didn't have a whole lot of talent.
More down than up?
No, we ended up around 500 for the year.
Okay.
We had some kids who just, didn't want to really buy into
the new regime.
Yeah. They weren't used to having to go to study hall every day. They weren't used to having to come to practice on Saturdays and coming to practice every day. Right. So it was tough.
And how did you guys fare in the playoffs?
We ended up losing to Forestville in the first round.
First round?
First round. To a team that we thought we could beat. But it was at the point where the kids, even the kids, were like, "Hey, man, we're Fairmont Heights. We're not supposed to be this far. We're not supposed to go anything beyond this." So, we got stuck in a situation where we had some guys who were just like, we don't want to be here.
So what changed? I mean, you guys won a state championship last year, which was pretty surprising, I think, to most people, maybe outside of your locker room. And
Yeah.
the way it sounded like at the end of your first year, your guys weren't even really bought into the whole thing.
Yeah.
What changed? I mean, how did you guys go from being 500 to being the best team in Maryland 1A last year?
Well, we had 5 seniors graduate off that team, and many of those seniors didn't play for us a whole lot, and they had played a lot leading up to their senior year. We had a kid who really just bought in, a kid named Kimani Benjamin,
Right.
Darius Holmes, Daquan Crowder, Traquan Spears. Those kids, the ones we had coming back, really bought into what we were trying to do. And then the next year, we fell into a situation where Forestville closed. I'm a graduate of Forestville. I've been, helping out with Forestville's program for a long time, with Coach Hay and Coach Hay's nephew, who's also there as well. We call him Coach Pookie. And once Forestville closed, all those kids just decided they wanted to stay together, and they wanted to come to Fairmont Heights.
So Forestville closes, this is heading into last season, and how many kids from the Forestville team come over here?
6 of them.
6.
Yeah, 6 kids that all grew up together, all been playing together since they were like 6 and 7 years old. So the thought of them not being together
Right.
wasn't ever going to happen.
How was that dynamic, though, going from, like a rival of your guys having like half the team being comprised of guys that probably didn't like you going into that year? I'm sure that was interesting in some way, right?
Yeah, and the funny thing is that was never the dynamic. It was never, we don't like these guys. It was, as soon as Forestville closed, those guys, they all wanted to be here. At the time, a lot of those guys played, AAU with a lot of the current players that we got on the team, the kids that I listed, Kimani and Darius and all those guys.
Right.
So they all knew each other, and it was just a decision that they were coming here regardless.
Do you think, was the team like divided a little bit? Did like the Forestville kids kind of hang out together and your kids kind of hang out together?
Never once.
They integrated pretty well?
Yeah. Like I said, a lot of those guys from Forestville all grew up together, but they grew up with a lot of our guys, our current guys as well, like
Right.
Jaquel and Darren have been playing AAU together. They played football together, so they all live in Capitol Heights. They're all, are really good friends.
Right. So walk me through last season. You guys come to tryouts November 15th last year. Walk me through from there to March, whatever it was when you won your state championship.
March 11th,
March
never
11th.
forget that. It was crazy how it all worked out. It was never a Forestville group and a Fairmont Heights group. Mm-hmm. It was always one group. We have the luxury of having a group of parents that really, really buy into our program. We call them our Hornets Huddle. And that group of parents, they do a good job. They do a good job of making sure the guys are there. They're committed. We do a lot of things off the court. We get together. We have dinners together. We talk together. So November 15th, we get to tryouts, and it's funny because as coaches, we're just looking at this team in tryouts, and we're like, if we don't win the state championship, we've screwed something up.
Really? After a 500 season the year before that, you're thinking that big?
Yeah. So right away, we see the dynamic that we have with, Kimani and Darren, and then we look at the other components that we have with Mandel and Y2 and Anthony and Eccles and Darius and Traquan and Daquan, and we're like, man, we're deep. you know, most PG County schools, if you have 3 or 4 kids that can really play, you're lucky. Like really play.
Right.
We have, you know, 11, 12 kids that can play and really understand the dynamic of the game. So as coaches, we're kind of sitting back and we're like, you know, if we don't win it this year, we failed these kids.
High expectations.
Super high expectations. And so, you know, we go through the season, we kind of limp through the season in terms of we lose some games that we probably shouldn't have. But again, we were still trying to learn how to play together. We had been used to giving Kimani the ball and kind of getting out of his way. He was a 25-point-a-game kid his sophomore year. Now we're asking him, we only want you to be in the realm of 13 to 16, and it was tough for him because he struggled because he was starting to shoot the ball a little bit too much and instead of getting to the rim. But you know, even through it all, he had teammates who would encourage him. We had parents that were encouraging our kids. We had parents that were encouraging each other. We had coaches that were really unselfish. And so as we're sitting there looking at this collective as a group of coaches, we're like, we have what it takes. We just have to put the pieces together. And so I think we got to a point around mid-December. Coach Wake, he comes to practice pretty often. Coach Wake and some of his former assistant coaches, they come to practice, and my dad's there. And so we're in practice, and it's like, we're looking at this team, and we're like, this team is in like postseason form already. But it's crazy because we start out, we're like 1-2. We're like 1-2, 1-3. And then we start playing some charter school teams, and yeah, we're beating them pretty easily, but we're in like mid-season form already. And so we started to scale back our practices. Our practices went to an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes early January for us. So now it's just a matter of, now let's work on some different things. Let's work on the character of these guys. Let's work on their mental toughness. So we started really challenging the guys, and I'll be honest, we threw some games in terms of maybe we played some guys too many minutes, or we played some guys not enough minutes, or we would go much deeper in our bench than we really needed to.
What's the purpose of that? Isn't the goal to have the highest seed possible so you can host playoff games? Yeah,
we kind of kept that in mind the whole time because ultimately the seed really didn't matter a whole lot to us. It was a matter of making sure this team actually had been through the fire, had been tested, and they could handle the situations that they were going to be put in. What happens if Darren goes down? Okay, so let's take Darren out. Don't play him. Don't play him in this game against a big rivalry school. We put the guys to the test. The day before our Central game, I went in and I checked all the kids' grades to see how many classes or how many assignments they had missed. This is the day before our biggest game of the year. Central's our biggest rival, and I go in and I'm looking at grades because ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, this game doesn't matter if these kids don't have grades. And so we have some like 160, 170 missed assignments. We ran line drills for every last one of them. So for that practice, and I had brought Coach Wake in to actually work with us so we can, work on our press, work on our defense. We didn't practice 1 minute that day. This is the day before our biggest game. At that point, it doesn't matter to me. We have to teach these guys something about being a good person, about having good character, about doing things the right way. And yeah, we probably would have competed better had we had an actual full-on practice against Central. We get blown out by like 29 points. Granted, that was a really great team they had last year. Maybe we do compete a little bit better. But in the grand scheme of things, getting these guys to understand that there's something bigger than basketball, that was more important to us. And we had several times in the seasons where we got to shut it down. We got to got to right the ship here.
So walk me through. Let's fast forward to the playoffs.
Okay.
You guys, do you remember what your record was going into the playoffs?
11-8.
11-8 heading into the playoffs.
11-8, and we felt like we lost some games that we could have won. A couple of last-second games. I think we lose maybe a buzzer beater to Avalon, buzzer beater to Parkdale, double overtime loss at home to Potomac. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're talking about some good teams here.
Yeah.
You know.
But 11-8 going into the postseason. Take me through the run. Take me through the run that culminated with that chip.
Okay. Man, we start off with Croom. Croom was so scrappy, man. They were so tough. They had a kid who ended up going for 30 on us in the Croom game. Another game where we pulled Darren. Trying to get him some minutes off the floor, rest his legs, and I'll be honest, we didn't play too well that game. We were lucky. We were fortunate enough to get out of that game. Second round, we see McDonough, tough young team who had been through a lot that year. I think their coach had a bunch of his seniors quit on his team, so they came up with a really young team, and that game, man, we were awful. I mean, we could have easily lost to McDonough that night. I think we ended up we ended up winning by 12. But that McDonough team was really good. They played really hard. We just didn't give our best effort that night. Next round, we have Surrattsville, another game where we came out and we really stunk it up first half. We were fortunate enough that those guys got into a little bit of foul trouble and we were able to make a run. But that Surrattsville team was good, and they have two forwards over there. They play really well together, play off of each other, and they controlled the rebounds on this first half, and they made it a dogfight for us. But ultimately, we were able to make a run at the end of the game and pull away from those guys. The Havre de Grace game, man, was fun. As a coach, that was one of my fondest moments as a head coach, as a young head coach. We go up there and we're probably down 6 with 5 minutes to go. And I'm looking up at the scoreboard man, Darren's in foul trouble, Kimani's in foul trouble, Watu's in foul trouble. So I'm looking at all my best rebounders in foul trouble. And next thing you know, one of our guards hits a three at the top of the key, bang. So just that game was so much fun. That kid they had up there, man, he could really flat out score. Lefty kid. I want to say his name was Kenneth Sumter. Could really play, and he lit us up for 30. Really kept his team in the game. And,
this was the regional championship?
This is the regional championship game. And so, Havre de Grace, no one's been up there, if you haven't been up there to play, man, I challenge you to go up there. That was a hostile environment. Very, very, very good fan base. Principal was, great guy. They walked us through everything. They had everything laid out for us. But man, it was a tough game. We were lucky to get out of there in overtime. We ended up pulling away in overtime. Again, I think we were just a little bit deeper than those guys. Like I said, they had a few guys that could play, but I mean, even when we got into our bench, we were 8-9 deep in terms of how many guys we could play and be good.
So you guys win the regional chip.
Yeah.
And you're headed to Xfinity.
Yep.
Who'd you got? Remind everyone who you played in that first game.
We got Kent County the first game.
Kent County on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah. Kent County on Friday afternoon, and right away everybody's trying to wonder if that kid Manny Camper's gonna play.
Right.
So I'm hyping it up in practice.
When did you find out he wasn't playing?
So right away I knew he wasn't gonna play because I knew he hurt his knee in their county championship game or their Bayside championship game, but I never tell my team that. And so I keep telling those guys, man.
But how sure were you? Because the media didn't even know until that day.
Yeah.
I mean, did part of you think there was a chance you could give it? You could try?
Yeah, I got a buddy who lives on that side of the water.
Yeah.
That coaches over there, and I called him. He was like, "Yeah, that kid's not gonna play."
Wow.
I was at the championship game. He's hurt pretty bad.
Yeah.
He told me I will prepare if he's there.
Right.
So I was like, all right. So I'm hyping it up to our guys. Man, this is a Division I player. This kid's really good, which he is. And those guys come over here with a chip on their shoulder. They feel like they don't get a lot of respect. So I'll be honest, we wanted to give our best effort. And even after the game, when the coach did his interview, and he said, they really lost because of depth perception. I thought that was kind of a slap in the face for our guys because I thought we really just played a great game.
Yeah. So, just remind us how that game unfolded.
First quarter, tight game, really tight game. They probably were up a couple points. I think second quarter, we really just adjusted our defense a little bit. We were able to hold them to 4 points in the second quarter. Halftime, we go in, we're 41-17. And I'll be honest, I really kind of called the dogs off at that point. I felt like we could have probably won that game going away, maybe a little bit more, but my heart hurt for those guys. They had a lot of injuries. I would have liked to play them, full strength, but, just our day.
So, quick turnaround. You guys played less than 24 hours later.
Yeah.
Walk me through that state chip.
Edmondson Westside game was a whirlwind. Trying to remember anything that specific that I felt like, maybe it was the perfect storm or anything like that. I can't say that that was a scenario. I just remember giving these guys the most heartfelt pregame speech that I gave them all year. And for the first time all season, I didn't see any fear in anybody's eyes. I didn't see any distractions in anyone's eyes. I just didn't see fear. I didn't see, I just saw that chip on everybody's shoulder. I saw focus. And at that point, I told the coaches, leave them alone. Let them go, they're good. And warm-ups, just dap everybody up and tell them how much you love them. Because no matter what, we've accomplished a lot by being here. Obviously, we want to go home with it, but at that point, we felt like we accomplished a lot. So now we were just going to leave it on the floor.
So walk me through that game.
So starting out down 10-1 or 10-2, everybody's screaming, take a timeout. Like, nah, we're okay. We've prepared for this moment. Whether our best guys on the floor or not, we're going to be okay. Because I know we can bring another starting five off the bench, and we're going to be pretty good. Let's see if they can do that. And so we made a couple changes. We put in our, two of our best defenders, Juwan Butler and Mandel Quigley. And right away, our defenders give us baskets. And now we're like, all right, we're in business. So it was just, we got a couple of good bounces. We got a couple of plays, and in hindsight, watching it on film, we got a couple plays where, Kimani gets a basket where that pass probably should have been stolen going to him. We get a couple plays where Kimani would typically, and old Kimani as a sophomore would have given up on that play, whereas now he loses the ball, but then he goes and picks it up, gets fouled. Everything just came together for us.
So just walk us through how that game came to an end, the fourth quarter. What was the final in that game?
65-52.
Wasn't it close though?
It was very close. Yeah. So we were down one. We were up or down one in the leading into the fourth.
Right.
Fourth quarter, I told the guys just leave it on the floor. And we had a couple guys come up really clutch for us. Yolando Reed came in and he hit some big shots. He hit some big three-pointers. And I told him, be fearless. Everybody be fearless. I'm going to rotate a lot of guys this quarter. Be fearless. If you're open, one of our rules is if you're open, shoot the ball. If you don't shoot it, that horn's going to go off, and you're going to come out the game. And at that point, we had guys that weren't scared of anything. We put them through everything throughout the season, so they weren't scared of that moment. The moment wasn't too big for them. We had legacy night where there was, 1,000 fans in the stands, so it wasn't too big for them. We go, double OT with Potomac this year. It wasn't too big for them. We played a tough homecoming game against Largo. That moment wasn't too big for our guys.
So you win your chip. After the game, they call your name out. They give your assistant coach the net. You get that trophy. You hold it up in the air. Take me through your mindset. 2 years in, you're, 34 years old at the time?
Yeah, 34. I had my birthday the next week.
Okay. So just what's going through your mind? Fairmont Heights is back, basically.
It was just big sigh of relief. Like what have we done here?
Yeah.
One last time.
Now we hold the lungs up. Let's go. Hold the lungs up, man. Hey, on 3. We're holding this on 3. 1, 2, 3. What have we put in motion? Because now, people want to start to look at Fairmont Heights a little bit differently.
First, I want to give major shout out to Emerson Westside. I've actually been following them all year long. I knew they would be a team that'd be here. Wasn't quite sure about us, but definitely thought they had an amazing team. To go through that dogfight that they go through in Baltimore, and to be able to get here and only have 5 losses throughout the year, right away you can tell what kind of team they have. I thought our guys were really resilient today. I was really proud of what they put out there, and ultimately I'm humbled by what we got accomplished today.
How do you think the public's perception of you as a coach and Fairmont Heights basketball has changed since you won that championship?
I'll be honest, it hasn't.
Really?
At times, I have to remind people or tell people that we won the championship last year. I mean, we've had open gyms where coaches come and, I have to tell them, yeah, we won the 1A state championship last year. And they're like, where
Don't you think you're in the spotlight more now because of what you accomplished last year?
No, not at all. People around basketball, people in PG County congratulate us, and coaches that I know congratulate us. Parents of students in PG County congratulate us, but realistically, a lot of people who don't really keep up with Fairmont Heights, we're not mainstream.
Do you think that has anything to do with the fact that you're 1A?
Yeah, but when we talk about 1A, we're really just talking about the size of the school. I mean, realistically, any kid can go to any school.
Right, but usually the 4A game, since it's the 8 o'clock game, and since it's teams that have been playing probably better opponents during the season, kind of get, they're more in the spotlight than the 1A game, which is at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock every year.
Yeah, and it's crazy the way it works, because we think in 3A, 2A, 1A, we think our leagues is just as good as the 4A. I mean, we got some good teams, we got some great teams. They have some great teams. We got some teams that are not so good. They have some teams that are not so good. So we think over here we play just as good at basketball. Now, in terms of the size of the school, the publicity, yeah, we could do a little bit better over here in 3A, 2A, 1A, but we think we're just as good.
Gotcha. Switching gears a little bit, we're at Fairmont Heights, which is a brand new school.
Mm-hmm.
You guys just opened up, a month ago?
Yeah.
Tell me what it's like being at this beautiful facility here, which is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, it better be for $95 million, man. I love it. I remember walking into the old Fairmont Heights and, not having enough storage and, not knowing when we can practice because we only have one gym and now we have 2 gyms, and, it's great being here. It's a little bit different. The guys are, adjusting and trying to find their classes all over again, but it's been pretty spectacular so far.
So I want to talk about recruiting a little bit.
Okay.
I know you alluded to it earlier that a lot of private schools come in and poach PG County kids. There's also this issue of open enrollment with PG County schools that I assume you have here, considering this is a big new school. Maybe I'm wrong, but open enrollment also takes away from your roster's makeup as well. Do you think that winning a state championship and being in such an amazing new facility can help you retain more players than you would normally retain?
I don't know that it helps or hurts me. I'll be honest. People always talk about, hey man, your phone's gonna blow up now that you guys have won it, and I'll be honest. No one calls. No kids talk about wanting to come over to Fairmont Heights, and honestly, that's fine with us. We're going to continue to do it with the kids from our neighborhood.
But do you think kids in your neighborhood are more apt to stay at Fairmont than go private because you guys have this winning tradition now, and you have this crazy new facility?
I don't know, but we try to do a good job of just making ourselves visible. And when I say visible, I mean, with our social media presence, going out to the middle schools, our feeder middle schools, the kids that are going to come to us anyway. And just, we don't go recruiting, but we go to try to show, hey, man, we're doing something better than just playing basketball. It's so much more than just basketball over here with us. We're giving back. We're doing different things, cleaning up our neighborhood. And honestly, PG County, the whole word around recruiting, it's tough because we can't recruit. All you can do is try your best to just sell your brand in terms of putting a good product out there. Letting people know, hey, Fairmont Heights is actually a good school. I mean, we have the technology distribution center, which every laptop, cell phone, things like that, they come through Fairmont Heights, and our kids get the opportunity to work on them, and in our IT academy, the fact that we have this new building, our biotech academy, things like that kind of speak for itself. Our graduation rates through the roof, things like that. People don't know enough about Fairmont Heights. It's kind of a hidden jewel, and hopefully, by us being, winning the basketball championship, people will actually go in and do their own research because we can't go out and really visibly put that out there to them.
Shot clock, thoughts?
I'm excited about it.
Yeah?
I'm excited about it. It's going to give opportunity for coaches to really show that they can coach and not just sub. I'm a big fan of a lot of guys. Massenberg I'm a big fan of his. Brendan O'Connell. You're going to start to see some really, really great coaching now.
Yeah. This year, Fairmont Heights team, what should we expect?
We got to defend. I think if we defend, we're going to get an opportunity to be really good. We loaded up our schedule this year, playing some really tough teams. We're gonna step out there. We're gonna play Tacoma Academy, who's pretty good. I think we got Wise this year at the DC Premier event. Go over to St. John's and play those guys over there on Military Road. And then we got Rock Creek Christian coming in here. So we're loading up our schedule. Yeah. So we got right away. That's 3 teams that'll probably be ranked at some point this year. So hopefully we'll get the opportunity to get ranked. But whether we do or we don't, we're gonna play with that chip on our shoulders.
Coach Henry, we really appreciate you having us over here. This is a beautiful facility. I've never been to Fairmont Heights, the old school or the new school again. I say that with a lot of respect because I really look forward to coming to the new facility this year to check you guys out.
Well, I'm glad you're here, man. Get the opportunity to shine the spotlight on Fairmont Heights, man.
So the last thing I want to do here is something I do in every episode of this series. Pick up basketball game. All the coaches in the DMV, your name has come up multiple times. But I'm curious who your first pick would be if there was a pickup game with all the coaches in the DMV.
Oh man, I'm gonna piggyback on what a lot of other guys are saying, and just because I'm a huge fan of him. I watch him as a coach and I watched him as a player. I gotta go Eric Singletary, man.
Very popular answer.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
I mean,
popular
I don't think
answer.
people know how brilliant he is.
I don't know what Singletary does. I don't know how many phone calls he makes trying to position himself to get on this show. But,
Man, Singletary's brilliant, man. He's brilliant and he can flat out hoop. So,
all right. Well, Coach Henry, again, we really appreciate it. If there's anything you want to say, I know you don't have a platform to talk to the DMV basketball community, but if there's anything you think is important, it's on you.
well, I guess the only thing I would say is for those who really haven't checked us out, haven't come over to see a Fairmont Heights game, I really challenge you to come over, give an opportunity to these young men, both college coaches, media, whether it be a fan, just a basketball junkie. Come on over and check us out. We got a lot of talent here, and I think we'll be pleasantly surprised and even much better than we were last year.
All right, Chuck Henry, appreciate the time. Can't wait to see what you guys have this year.
All right, man. Appreciate it, Mark.